Right, I'll try and keep it to 10 minutes as well. I was invited here to make this presentation just to look at what community and rural development and the role it plays in communities, and the role it might play in communities, and how that's going to be described into in the plan in the new county, throughout the process of the review of the plan. I suppose what I should say is this overview was written quickly yesterday. And I tried to contact you yesterday, Patrick, because I chose to use Callan as an example of how this town resorts to community development and rural development practices. And I suppose KLP is only one of a number of players there. Okay. So Callan, as an example, let's say, of community and rural development action. I mean, Callan itself has a very long tradition of community. There's a very long tradition of community and rural development in this town. And there's a particular, I suppose it's our view in terms of, as I've been attached to it in various different ways for a number of years, but there's also a unique story attached to how that development has been approached in this town that extends particularly back to the start of the last century, and the development of a story that developed that extends from the cooperative movement up to the growing presence of organisations like Rafter and Callan in this town, particular role of the GAA and the level of arts activity, and how they have come together to create a very unique and diverse environment for community and rural development, and has actually brought really different types of resources to this town. So the question for us as an organisation, KLP, is how can we extract those lessons and that history and use the bits of it that are relevant and transfer to other locations. Okay, so that, as I said, you've seen the delivered unique set of experience to the town, its hinterland and the county. So it's not just about what Callan does for itself; it's what it does for the county, for its immediate hinterland that has spread out as far as Kilkenny or Winegap or Callan. But it's also there's a level of activity here in Callan that has a regional and national. It's attracted regional and national interest. I think what we've also seen here in Callan are good levels of interagency cooperation in terms of local development. And the basis of that is that we've been able to identify key groups in the town that are voluntary, to which agencies can talk to, and through which consultations can occur and plans be developed, and then projects put in place. And if you look at the particular type of activity that's ongoing in Callan, we've got a very strong group or network called Callan Community Network, out of which hang a whole series of very complex projects. We have Candida, which is the local. What does that stand for exactly? Association, exactly. So that's the local economic forum that have driven the development of the Westport Industrial Estate. They're looking to develop a similar industrial estate out over on this side of the town also. Started in Scott, great. And then there's been discussions, for instance, with ourselves around there being a renewable energy component built into that. So we've seen Callan Co-op continues to exist. It's one of the few independent co-ops that are left in the country, and it has and continues to thrive. KCAT is a regionally and nationally and internationally recognised centre for arts excellence. Camp Hill and Larsh, I think it's one of the most significant concentrations of those two organisations in such a small area, and then has led to the growth of Camp Hill in particular across the county and into neighbouring counties. And I think back in the 90s, Camp Hill was one of the largest service providers to people with disabilities in the region, in comparison to, say, Munster, where you had just two very large-scale providers, whereas people who had very profound disabilities could access a whole range of different experiences that they might have in other areas. We have the Tidy Towns group, which is quite active. CART, which is also a unique rehabilitative centre that was set up in response to people who had leaving the mainstream rehabilitative services in the country and then fell into a space where there wasn't a level of provision, and this sought to seek that gap. The GA, of course, the Mount Carmel Nursing Home. Those are not, I'd say, a complete list of the voluntary groups in this town. Okay, so if we look at Callan Community Network, as far as I know, it was established in 2002 as an entity to receive and develop this building, the Friary, on behalf of the town of Callan, and initially opened the Friary House as a local resource. So to allow that to happen, then that group sought to leverage other types of resources out of the state, and some of those would have been beyond the boundaries of the county. And the key one here was the family support, through the Family Support Agency, secured funding for a family resource centre, which I suppose is that core operational piece in terms of the running of this facility, the running of the services and experiences through it out of here. They also secured significant funding through the Equal Opportunities Childcare Programme to construct a 71-space childcare facility at the back. I think that would have cost over €1 million, I'm sure. And they renovated the undercroft of this, where we are now, this building, through the support of Kilkenny County Council and BNS, so that they could continue this youth centre and a whole series of other experiences here. Callan Community Network has also looked at, it has looked and explored and tested bioenergy technologies for the heating of the Friary, K-Cat and workhouse complexes here for the development of an energy supply company in the town. We've seen the development of youth facilities and related projects in a town where youth provision outside of, say, mainstream provision is quite low, but we've seen an incremental growth in those experiences in the town. This whole space here has become an arena through which education, training and development programs can be delivered from people who have departed from mainstream education and training early, and therefore would have experienced significant disadvantages even during the boom, but in the recession, these disadvantages that they experience are even deeper. It is also a venue for recreational programs, the local league for older men, at a Callan craft and food market, and the very unique cultural offering of the Allenby Festival, which has become a significant cultural landmark in the cultural events of the county. So in terms of, I suppose, what are the debates in terms of community development and local development now? There's a greater need, it is argued by many, for community involvement to enhance community resources. So that's based on an assumption that much of the resources that we need to extract actually already exist in the community in terms of its residents, but need to be tapped into through the encouragement of volunteering. And the other debate, particularly that's relevant in terms of this plan, that communities, the actual physical makeup of communities, and the services, etc., and the services that are delivered into communities and the built environment around communities should be shaped by communities participating in the decisions that are made around how those decisions are made. So how can local communities be assisted? How can local community development be assisted in rural communities? So if we look at Callan, there's the Drogheda Family Resource Centre here, who have managed to leverage and support for community childcare, training, education, development, information advice, support for representation and participation into processes such as these. Callan Community Network, which I suppose is the mother ship that holds onto that Family Resource Centre, also has a wider remit in terms of heritage and culture and bioenergy. It's fair enough. Would there be others to add to that?
It hasn't achieved, but the whole idea of local citizenship, not that they're going to be government in town, but a forum for what other issues what's going to be done about it, where people can participate at that level. It never expires to do that. It has done it in a number of situations. Turnout is disappointing, obviously. The whole idea of if people do have their say, it is listened to, and it does create a context for things happening, being driven locally. They will be driven.
Exactly, and then it makes processes like these easier because we've got places to come to consult, take it back, analyse it, return, in terms of I suppose the level of resources available to ourselves, there's grant aid for community groups and rural enterprises through the Rural Development Programme. There's employment, enterprise training and education support through the local community development programme, which we also house. Community development and voluntary organisation supports through the Rural Social Scheme and TOOS programmes, and community organisation supports through the technical assistance of KLP development staff. So that's around working with communities in terms of the enhancement of their own capacity to manage their own works and projects where it's possible. The Kenny County Council Community and Culture Capital Facilities Grant. There's also a series of estate enhancement grants, local Agenda 21, environmental grants which are generally quite small. There's amenity grants which are normally dedicated to tidy towns, and there's also then supports which are actually really important, which are delivered through the Heritage Officer in terms of how we treat some of our monuments and our natural spaces. The BEC have the Community Education Programme, Back to Education Initiative, and they also house the Youth Officer. There is a level of presence, I think, in terms of Feroiga and Ostra Youth in the town. And the Recreation Sports Partnership, we would be targeting some young people in this town to participate in recreation programs, particularly over the summer through the sports partnership. That's it. It was to be a very quick overview.